Have you ever felt like the world is too noisy? Every time you open social media, all that appears is noise, comparison, and complaints. We are tired, yet we keep scrolling. We know it causes stress, but we can't stop. In the midst of all that chaos, there was a man who lived nearly 2,000 years ago, but his thoughts are still incredibly relevant today. His name was Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, a soldier, and a philosopher who tried to remain calm in a constantly tumultuous world. And what's interesting is that he didn't just talk about serenity. He lived his life in the middle of a chaos far more severe than what we face today. Marcus Aurelius was not an ambitious man. He was born in 121 AD in Rome to a noble family. From childhood, he was known to be quiet, contemplative, and not particularly interested in power. But fate had other plans. Through a series of political events and imperial adoptions, Marcus was eventually designated as the successor to the Roman throne. He never asked to be emperor, but precisely because of that, he became a different kind of leader. When he ascended the throne, the world was in turmoil. There were wars on the borders, a plague was spreading, the economy was collapsing, and even some of his own friends betrayed him. Can you imagine being the most powerful person in the world, yet having no control over anything? But through it all, Marcus did not lose his composure. He didn't run from his responsibilities, but he also didn't let external chaos destroy his inner self. And from that experience, the book that still guides so many lives was born. The funny thing is, Meditations was not a book written to be sold. Marcus wrote it for himself. It's a kind of personal journal, notes on how he dealt with life. Imagine the Roman emperor, the most powerful man in the world, writing sentences like this: "You have power over your mind, not outside event. Realize this, and you will find strength." Or this one: "You cannot choose what will happen, but you can choose how you will respond to it." His words are simple, yet profoundly deep. Marcus was not speaking from an ivory tower. He wrote while sleeping in a war tent, amidst the rain and dust, while struggling against loss, betrayal, and fear. And that is what makes it feel real. Because essentially, everyone is fighting a battle, whether external or within themselves. One thing Marcus constantly repeated in his writings is, you cannot control the world, but you can control yourself. That is the core of the philosophy of Stoicism, the way of thinking he embraced and developed. For Stoics, life is not about seeking comfort, but about accepting reality. It's not about hoping the world will be fair, but about learning how to stay calm when the world is unfair. Marcus said, "We are disturbed not by things, but by the view we take of them." For example, you get angry because someone cuts in line, but actually what makes you angry is not the person's action, but your own thought about what that action means. If you perceive it as an insult, you get angry, but if you see it as something you cannot change, you remain calm, and that doesn't mean you should be passive or apathetic. Marcus was not a weak person. He was an emperor who led armies, made monumental decisions, and dared to face difficult things. But he knew that anger and panic never helped. Calmness does not mean giving up. Calmness means remaining aware in the midst of the storm. One of the most fascinating aspects of Marcus is his realization that man's greatest enemy is not other people, but his own mind. He once wrote, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." And this is deeply relevant to modern psychology today. We often feel stressed not because of major events, but because of how our brain reacts to small things. We create scenarios in our heads, replaying problems over and over until eventually we exhaust ourselves. Marcus knew this. He was human too, sometimes afraid, disappointed, feeling incapable. But he wrote to remind himself that if you cannot change the situation, change the way you look at it. It's simple, yet revolutionary. Because once you realize that you still have control, Even if only over your mind, you are not completely defeated. Even when the world presses in, you still have a small space within you that no one can touch. And that is where, according to Marcus, true peace resides. If we think about it, Marcus's world was not much different from our world now. The only difference is the form. While he faced physical wars, we face information wars. While he fought against the plague, we fight against anxiety. While he feared losing his empire, we fear losing social validation. But the principle remains the same. You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And that, in Marcus's version, means focus on what you can control, accept what you cannot change, and remain true to yourself amidst the world's pressures. Try to think about it. How much time in a day do you spend on things outside your control? News, other people's opinions, negative comments, office gossip, social expectations. Marcus would say, all that is none of your business. Your only business is one thing, to be a good person today. That's all. No need to be complicated. No need to be perfect. The important thing is that you are aware and you remain calm. Marcus was not born calm. He trained himself every day. Just like us, he was prone to anger, disappointment, and exhaustion. But the difference was, he was aware that calmness is not something that comes from outside. He wrote, "Tranquility comes when you stop arguing with reality." We often want the world to conform to our wishes, but the world never promised that. And the more we fight reality, the more exhausted we become. Whereas if we learn to accept, the mind becomes light. From there, we can truly think clearly and act wisely. Calmness does not mean you don't care. Calmness means you still care, but in a more mature way. The world does not have to be calm for you to be calm, because in the end, chaos is a part of life, and you don't need to wait for the world to change to feel peaceful. You can start with small things, with the way you react, with the words you choose, with the decision not to be swept away by the current. Because as Marcus said, your life is what your thoughts make of it. If you see life as a burden, you will feel burdened. But if you see it as an opportunity, you will feel strong. Calmness is not about a better world, but about a more aware self. Marcus Aurelius died at the age of 58. He left behind an empire that was temporarily shaky, but also left a far more valuable legacy, a way of thinking that allows people to endure the ages. 2,000 years have passed, but his message remains the same. Do not let the outside world dominate your inner world. You cannot stop the world from being noisy, but you can choose to remain calm amidst the noise. And perhaps there, in the calmness you create yourself, you are finally truly alive.